Okay, today is 25th of July, and this is the third night. We're talking on the Nidana Samyutta of the Samyutta Nikaya. So now we come to 12.23 at Savati. The Buddha said, "Monks, I say that the destruction of the asavas ends is for one who knows and sees, not for one who does not know and does not see. For one who knows what, for one who sees what, does the destruction of the asavas come about. Such is form, such its origin, such its passing away. Such is feeling, such its origin, such its passing away. Similarly, such is perception, such is volition, such is consciousness, such its origin, such its passing away. It is for one who knows thus, who sees thus, that the destruction of the asavas comes about." Stop here for a moment. Destruction of the asavas is actually enlightenment, because when a person destroys the asavas, he destroys the uncontrolled mental outflows, which causes the round of rebirths, because the world is made up of consciousness. So the uncontrolled mental outflows basically is a flow of consciousness, the six consciousness. So when one stops the uncontrolled outflows of consciousness, then the round of rebirths is stopped, and one is liberated from the round of rebirths, and one becomes an arahant. And here the Buddha says, to become liberated, you must know and see five things: form, feeling, perception, volition, and consciousness. These five are called the five aggregates. We will come to it later. I think it's chapter 22, the 22nd Samyutta. And these five aggregates can also said to be two things: body and mind. Form is body. The other four things comprise the mind: feeling, perception, volition, and consciousness. And this is body and mind. So we, all beings, we take the body and mind to be the self, or as belonging to the self, or the self is in the five aggregates, or the five aggregates are in the self. So these five aggregates we always associate with the self, you see. So you have to understand these five aggregates and see that they are impermanent, subject to conditions. There's nothing permanent in them. So when one sees and knows these five aggregates then one attains liberation. So to continue, I say, monks, that the knowledge of destruction in regard to destruction has a proximate cause. It does not lack a proximate cause. And what is the proximate cause for the knowledge of destruction? It should be said liberation. Here destruction refers to destruction of the asavas, liberation. So the knowledge of liberation is due to liberation. I say, monks, that liberation too has a proximate cause. It does not lack a proximate cause. And what is the proximate cause for liberation? It should be said dispassion. The word is viraga. Raga is passion or lust. So lust for life. So now when one is dispassionate towards life, towards this world, then only one can attain liberation. But most of us, we are passionate about the world. I say, monks, that this passion too has a proximate cause. It does not lack a proximate cause. And what is the proximate cause for this passion? It should be said revulsion, nibbida. Sometimes this is translated as disenchantment, no more enchanted with the world. I say to monks that revulsion has a proximate cause. It does not lack a proximate cause. And what is the proximate cause for revulsion? It should be said knowledge and vision of things as they really are. Yatta bhutta jnana dastana, seeing things clearly as they really are. I say, monks, that the knowledge and vision of things as they really are too has a proximate cause. It does not lack a proximate cause. And what is the proximate cause for the knowledge and vision of things as they really are? It should be said concentration, samadhi. So you see, to see things clearly as they really are, you need samadhi, a focused mind. Most people have a scattered mind, so they don't see things clearly. It's only by development of the mind, bhavana, attaining one pointed mind, a focused mind, then only we can see clearly, just like the camera lens. I say to monks that concentration has a proximate cause. It does not lack a proximate cause. And what is the proximate cause for concentration? It should be said happiness, sukhang. I say monks that happiness too has a proximate cause. It does not lack a proximate cause. And what is the proximate cause for happiness? It should be said tranquility or serenity, sadi. I say monks that tranquility too has a proximate cause. It does not lack a proximate cause. And what is the proximate cause for tranquility? It should be said rapture, piti. This piti, delight is maybe a better translation, delight. I say monks that rapture too has a proximate cause. It does not lack a proximate cause. And what is the proximate cause for rapture? It should be said gladness, pamoja. I say monks that gladness too has a proximate cause. It does not lack a proximate cause. And what is the proximate cause for gladness? It should be said faith. Faith here probably refers to the faith in the Buddha, Dhamma and Sangha. I say monks that faith too has a proximate cause. It does not lack a proximate cause. And what is the proximate cause for faith? It should be said suffering. I say monks that suffering too has a proximate cause. It does not lack a proximate cause. And what is the proximate cause of suffering? It should be said birth. Birth gives rise to suffering. I say monks that birth too has a proximate cause. It does not lack a proximate cause. And what is the proximate cause of birth? It should be said being or existence. I say monks that being too has a proximate cause. It does not lack a proximate cause. And what is the proximate cause of being? It should be said clinging or attachment. I say monks that clinging too has a proximate cause. It does not lack a proximate cause. And what is the proximate cause for clinging? It should be said craving. I say monks that craving too has a proximate cause. It does not lack a proximate cause. And what is the proximate cause for craving? It should be said feeling, pleasant feeling. For feeling, it should be said contact. For contact, the six sense basis. For the six sense basis, mentality and materiality. For mentality and materiality, the cause is consciousness. For consciousness, the cause is volition. I say monks that volition too has a proximate cause. It does not lack a proximate cause. And what is the proximate cause for volition? It should be said ignorance. Thus monks, with ignorance as proximate cause, volition comes to be. With volition as proximate cause, consciousness. With consciousness as cause, mentality and materiality. Then the six sense basis. Then contact. Then feeling. Then craving. Then clinging. Then existence or being. Then birth, then suffering, then faith, then gladness, then delight, piti, and then tranquility, then happiness. And after happiness, you have concentration. And after concentration, you have knowledge and vision of things as they really are. And after that, revulsion. And after that, dispassion. And after that, liberation. And after that, knowledge of liberation or destruction. Just as monks, when rain pours down in thick droplets on a mountain top, the water flows down along the slope and fills the cleft gullies and creeks. These being full, fill up the pools. These being full, fill up the lakes. These being full, fill up the streams. These being full, fill up the rivers. And these being full, fill up the great ocean. So too, the ignorance as proximate cause, volition comes to be. With volition, consciousness, etc., etc., until liberation and knowledge of liberation. So here you see, the Buddha is joining the 12 links with liberation. How ignorance gives rise to suffering. And after suffering, a person goes searching for truth. Goes searching for the truth, and then he comes across the Dhamma. Teachings about reality, teachings about the world as it really is. Then he has faith in the teachings, faith in the Buddha, Dhamma and Sangha. And after having faith, then gladness arises when he practices the teachings. And after gladness arises, then he gets delight. And then he practices meditation, he achieves tranquility or serenity. Then happiness, and then concentration, samadhi, one-pointedness of mind. the jhanas. And because of the jhanas, he attains yatta bhuta jnana darsana, seeing and knowing things as they really are, clearly seeing. And seeing the condition of the world, seeing suffering, the reality of the world, it becomes disenchanted, nibida, or here it says revulsion. And after becoming disenchanted, it becomes dispassionate towards the world. So a person has to become dispassionate about the world, totally has no more interest in the world, see the world as suffering. Then only he can attain liberation. So that is the sequence of events that leads to liberation. So unless a person has become disenchanted with the world and becomes dispassionate, there is no chance of liberation. So a lot of people, they still cannot let go of the world. I don't think at all about liberation. Because the easiest way is, if you don't get full liberation, at least try to get stream entry. And that's the easiest. By studying the Dhamma, the Buddha says. By studying the Dhamma, the original teachings of the Buddha, we get right view. And when we get right view, we have entered the stream. Studying suttas like these in the Nidana Sangyutta, they're very important. There are a few topics in the Buddha's teachings which are core teachings. If you understand these few teachings well, then the chances of attaining stream entry are great. This one, Paticca Samuppada, dependent origination, is one. Another one is the five aggregates just mentioned. Another one is the six sense basis, how the world arises at the six sense basis. So basically these three are the most important. So now we are going through this first one, Nidana. Okay, we come to the next sutta, 12.24. Then in the morning, Rajagaha. In the morning, the Venerable Sariputta dressed and taking bowl and robe entered Rajagaha for alms. Then it occurred to him, it is still too early to walk for alms in Rajagaha. Let me go to the park of the wanderers of other sects. Stop here for the moment. This park is a forest monastery. During the Buddha's days, all the monasteries were forest monasteries. And sometimes they are called arama, sometimes they are called avasa. From the word avasa, you have awasa. And then they shorten it to awat. And then they shorten it to wat. So in Thailand, the monasteries are called wat. Actually, it comes from the word avasa. So these wanderers of other sects are the external sect ascetics. Those ascetics of other religions. They also, like the Buddha's disciples, they stay in forest monasteries. So here, during the Buddha's time, the Buddha and his disciples, they maintain friendship towards all other ascetics. They don't look down on them or anything. So because if they are friendly with them, like here they can go and visit each other, and then they sometimes they ask Dhamma or they try to argue about Dhamma, then that's the way to convert them. Then the Venerable Sariputta went to the park of the wanderers of other sects. He exchanged greetings with those wanderers, and when they had concluded their greetings and cordial talk, he sat down to one side. The wanderers then said to him, Friend Sariputta, some ascetics and Brahmins, proponents of karma, maintain that suffering is created by oneself. Some ascetics and Brahmins, proponents of karma, maintain that suffering is created by another. Some ascetics and Brahmins, proponents of karma, maintain that suffering is created both by oneself and by another. Some ascetics and Brahmins, proponents of karma, maintain that suffering has arisen fortuitously, being created neither by oneself nor by another. Now, friend Sariputta, what does the ascetic Gotama say about this? What does he teach? How should we answer if we are to state what has been said by the ascetic Gotama and not misrepresent him with what is contrary to fact? And how should we explain in accordance with the Dhamma so that no reasonable consequence of our assertion would give grounds for criticism? Let's stop here for a moment. This year, when they say ascetic Gotama, they refer to the Buddha. The Buddha's surname was Gotama, Siddhartha Gotama. So they knew him as Gautama. And the word ascetic is a translation from the Pali Samana. During the Buddha's days, there were two classes of ascetics. Those belonging to the Brahmin class we call Brahmanas. Nowadays we call Brahmins. And then all other ascetics or renunciants were called Samanas. And Venerable Sariputta said, "Friends, the Blessed One has said that suffering is dependently arisen. Dependent on what? Dependent on contact. If one were to speak thus, one would be stating what has been said by the Blessed One. I would not misrepresent him with what is contrary to fact. One would explain in accordance with the Dhamma, and no reasonable consequence of one's assertion would give ground for criticism. Therein, friends, in the case of those ascetics and Brahmins, proponents of karma, who maintain that suffering is created by oneself, that is conditioned by contact. Also in the case of those ascetics and Brahmins, proponents of karma, who maintain that suffering is created by another, that too is conditioned by contact. Also in the case of those ascetics and Brahmins, proponents of karma, who maintain that suffering is created both by oneself and by another, that too is conditioned by contact. Also in the case of those ascetics and Brahmins, proponents of karma, who maintain that suffering has arisen fortuitously, being created neither by oneself nor by another, that too is conditioned by contact. Therein, friends, in the case of those ascetics and Brahmins, proponents of karma, who maintain that suffering is created by oneself, it is impossible that they will experience anything without contact. That means it is impossible that they will experience suffering without contact. Contact means contact with the six sense bases, the eye, ear, nose, tongue, body and mind. Also in the case of those ascetics and Brahmins, proponents of karma, who maintain that suffering is created by another, it is impossible that they will experience anything without contact. Also in the case of those ascetics and Brahmins, proponents of karma, who maintain that suffering is created both by oneself and by another, it is impossible that they will experience anything without contact. Also in the case of those ascetics and Brahmins, proponents of karma, who maintain that suffering has arisen fortuitously, being created neither by oneself nor by another, it is impossible that they will experience anything without contact. Let's stop here for a moment. So here, Sariputta is trying to tell them that in the Buddha's teachings, we don't talk about self. We don't talk about suffering either created by ourselves or created by somebody else. That give us suffering, like God or whatever. In the Buddha's teachings, everything arises through conditions and ceases through conditions. So any type of feeling, whether suffering or happiness, whatever, all also is due to conditions and principally through contact at the six sense doors, at the six sense organs. Then only feeling arises. Venerable Ananda heard this conversation between the Venerable Sariputta and wanderers of other sects. Then when he had walked for alms in Rajagaha and had returned from the alms round, after his meal he approached the Blessed One, paid homage to him, sat down to one side, and reported to the Blessed One the entire conversation between the Venerable Sariputta and those wanderers of other sects. The Blessed One said, Good, Ananda. Anyone answering rightly would answer just as Sariputta has done. I have said, Ananda, that suffering is dependently arisen. Dependent on what? Dependent on contact. If one were to speak thus, one would be stating what has been said by me, and would not misrepresent me with what is contrary to fact. One would explain in accordance with the Dhamma, and no reasonable consequence of one's assertion would give grounds for criticism. Therein, Ananda, in the case of those ascetics and Brahmins, proponents of karma, who maintain that suffering is created by oneself, and then he says exactly like Venerable Sariputta has said, and those who maintain that suffering has arisen fortuitously, being created neither by oneself nor by another, that too is conditioned by contact. Therein, Ananda, in the case of those ascetics and Brahmins, proponents of karma, who maintain that suffering is created by oneself, and those who maintain that suffering has arisen fortuitously, being created neither by oneself nor by another, it is impossible that they will experience anything without contact. On one occasion, Ananda, I was dwelling right here in Rajagaha, in the bamboo grove, the squirrel sanctuary. Then in the morning, I dressed and taking bowl and robe, I entered Rajagaha for alms. Then it occurred to me, it is still too early to walk for alms in Rajagaha. Let me go to the path of the wanderers of other sects. Then I went to the path of the wanderers of other sects. I exchanged greetings with those wanderers, and when we had concluded our greetings and cordial talk, I sat down to one side. The wanderers then said to me, as I was sitting down to one side. And here the wanderers asked exactly the same question as they had asked Sariputta and received identical reply. And then Venerable Ananda said, "It is wonderful, Venerable Sir. It is amazing, Venerable Sir, how the entire meaning can be stated by a single phrase. Can this same meaning be stated in detail, in a way that is deep and deep in implications?" Then the Buddha said, "Well then, Ananda, clear up that same matter yourself." In other words, you answer. Then Venerable Ananda said, "Venerable Sir, if they were to ask me, friend Ananda, what is the source of aging and death? What is its origin? From what is it born and produced? Being asked thus, I would answer thus, friends, aging and death has birth as its source, birth as its origin. It is born and produced from birth. Being asked thus, I would answer in such a way. Venerable Sir, if they were to ask me, friend Ananda, what is the source of birth? What is its origin? From what is it born and produced? Being asked thus, I would answer thus, friends, birth has existence as its source, existence as its origin. It is born and produced from existence of being. Being has clinging as its source. Clinging has craving as its source. Craving has feeling as its source. Feeling has contact as its source. Contact, the six sense bases. And then with the remainderless fading away and cessation of the six bases for contact comes cessation of contact. With the cessation of contact, cessation of feeling. With the cessation of feeling, cessation of craving, etc., etc., until the cessation of birth, then the cessation of aging and death, sorrow, lamentation, pain, displeasure and despair. Such is the cessation of this whole mass of suffering. Being asked thus, Venerable Sir, I would answer in such a way. That's the end of the sutta. So here you see, Venerable Sariputta at first tried to answer the wanderers of other sects that in the Buddha's teachings we don't say that suffering is due to anything except due to conditions. And these conditions, because suffering is a feeling, feeling arises from contact, and contact arises from six sense bases, and the six sense bases come from nama rupa, etc. So, Venerable Ananda at the end also said that if they were to ask him the source of aging and death, then he would say aging and death or suffering has birth as its source, and then birth has being as its source, etc. So this reminds me, sometimes we say somebody died, we say, oh, what is the cause of his death? Some people say, oh, he died because of cancer. Some people say he died because of old age, or he died because of now the swine flu and all that. But actually the real reason we all die is because we are born. Because of birth, we have to die. Whether there is swine flu or there is no swine flu, we still have to die. So in the same way here, Venerable Ananda says, don't ask whether we created the suffering ourselves or somebody imposed suffering on us. It's all because we are born into a world that is a world of suffering. Because this world is also a world of suffering and happiness. Sometimes we experience happiness, sometimes we experience suffering. But the world is such, however much happiness you experience is never enough. Right? You are never satisfied. But when suffering comes a little bit, you can't stand it. It's just like if you are given a delicious bowl of soup to drink, put a bit of shit inside there, a bit of excrement, a very little, tiny bit, and then you don't want to eat, you don't want to drink the soup anymore. So in the same way, because this world is suffering, so when we are mature enough, then only we realize that we want to get out of suffering.